Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage, and you are looking at what appears to be the empty right side of my Simpson's sewing machine. This is a sewing machine that was made private label, I believe is the term, by one of the Japanese manufacturers for the Simpson's retail department store chain. And it is one of the heaviest machines I have ever picked up. I swear it is cast iron and it's extra thick at that. When I say cast iron, I'm really referring to the chassis, the body or the head of the machine, and of course the sewing deck or the floor, if you will. The drivetrain components are beautifully machined steel, and I'm not sure if the bracket itself, it's probably made of steel. In any event, I wanted to show you how this particular motor goes back in. Now, when you think of vintage sewing machines, you will often think of them where they simply have a motor hanging out on the right rear of the machine. And there's usually a bolt holding it to the side of the machine. Once we get into the 1960s, mid-late 60s, you start to see two bolts, and that's why you see two slots here. I've explained before that you need slots on the bracket because that allows you to adjust the position of the motor, which is helpful for adjusting tension and also adjusting the position of the motor when you put a new belt on. So what I had originally done when I took the motor out, remember I had loosened it, but it was pulling, right? I explained to you when you're trying to move something or remove, and if it's not wanting to cooperate, there's a reason. And of course, this is the lead. This is the power cord that connects the motor to the electrical source that we have in our dual block sewing machine power cord, which I have covered in a number of different videos. So in order to put this back today, one of the first things we need to do is we need to pull back the slack. Remember, I had pushed the power cord up so that I could get enough length of the cord to pull it. And so now I'm simply going to do the reverse. I'm pulling this cord down through this opening. And by the way, for some machines, there will be and we'll look underneath this machine again when we're talking about it. Sewing machines will sometimes have brackets that attach the cord to keep it out of harm's way from the moving parts of the machine. And on this particular one, the one you see with this extra sheeting, this little clear piece, this is actually the light cord, and it is attached. But we'll talk about that when we go underneath. But for the moment, let's go ahead. And you don't have to pull all of the slack of the cord out, because if you do, it might be tight. But you want to pull enough to get the motor in position, and then we can adjust the slack. For example, if I'm coming over here, I'm seeing it sort of binding, so we just need to remove a little bit more of that power cord extra length there. Now, I was just looking in here to see what might be. Sometimes when you put something in a motor like this in there, it may feel like it's not fitting, but keep trying. As long as your cord is not tangled, right? The cord is fine because it's coming straight down from the motor, right? If I hadn't pulled that slack, then you could end up not being able to get the motor bracket into position. And it is designed to go here, and it does have clearance. Not a lot, right? So if you look at it, you do have some space, like a sliver of space over here for the motor so that it can get air around it. It doesn't need a lot. And of course, remember, there's a fan in the motor, and as the motor turns, the fan moves. And as the fan moves, it pulls air, and it actually pulls it going toward the machine, and it comes out the other side. We have some vent holes. All right, so what do we want? I'm just going to let the motor lie there for a moment, and I have my two very strong and robust bolts here, and I have not one but two. Apparently they came with two washers. So there's a big washer, and there's a little bit of it almost looks like a bit of a lock washer. It's got a little teeth in it, but the big washer here goes on last. And those of you who know If you've seen me covering the reassembly of machines, this will not be new to you. When I have something that like these bolts came out, and I'm pretty sure, well, I'm not totally sure. I think they may have been removed before, or at least loosened, because someone had replaced the belt. Remember, the belt on this machine, which is in still great shape, by the way, we're going to reuse it. It's not the original. The original belt would have either been black or possibly beige. In any event, I'm going to do what I often do, and again, this is not part of your normal oiling maintenance for your machine. This is a restoration step. These bolts, I don't know that anyone who took these out or loosened them to get the belt replaced in the past ever put any oil on them. So we're going to do that now. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold the bracket, and it's heavy, and it's going to be heavy on the right side, so you're going to have to adjust yourself a bit there. And I'm just going to start it by turning it with thumb and finger. Should be easy enough. Famous last words. Never say that when you're working on sewing machines. And we'll do the same with the bottom. And again, when you take these bolts out, remember to look for washers. Now, you may have a machine where the washers aren't there, and that's entirely possible. If you have this model, you may be, the washers themselves, as long as you get the right size, you should be able to get a washer. You could go to a hardware store and get a washer, but it's useful because it prevents the bolt as it tightens from grinding against your bracket, and grinding the paint. It makes for a more stable bracket because you have larger surface area pressing against it. And remember, this is one of these areas of a sewing machine that typically I torque down a little tighter than some, not industrial tight, but tighter than some, because again, it's holding the tension of the, whoops, let's come down here. We'll give you guys a little bit better perspective there. All right, so I haven't really tightened the bolts yet. I'll just hand tighten them because I'm not done. Remember, I've got to get my my hand wheel, which, remember, as I've mentioned many occasions, your hand wheel is a giant pulley, and you can see the groove there where the belt goes. And that's why it exists, right? It's a pulley so that your motor belt, which has, the motor has its own little pulley sitting right there. And speaking of pulleys, remember, if you haven't done this yet, you're going to want to take, again, cotton swab, brand of your choice, and you can see the grime and filth. I just wet this. I literally just, you can just wet it with, a little bit of water is fine. It's really, you almost never hear me say that, but this, of course, is going to be dry. I did not use alcohol. You think, well, why didn't you use alcohol? Because this is painted, and 99% alcohol is very strong, and I don't want it to soften the paint or remove the paint. Now over here, you'll notice this area is dirty. We can go ahead and clean here. Now this is not this ridge right here. This is not where your belt is going. Your belt is going in this groove, and that's why I'm focused on cleaning that groove. What you're seeing here, this grime is mostly just residue, probably from the original belt. That belt is long since gone. Someone replaced it. But belts degrade over time, and they start to shed, and you don't have to use a cotton swab like I'm doing here. You could just even take a clean rag and just go around it, right? Just check. There shouldn't be anything. There's nothing here. There's no dust or anything in there. And before we put our belt back on, we can, I'm going to take my little rag here and just clean out the hub. And, there's really not, sometimes the hub of your hand wheel will be grimy and dirty, and sometimes not. It's, you can't always predict. It's always been kind of a mystery to me as to why sometimes they are and sometimes they're just fine. You may not know if you have a scratch or if you just have dirt, and you won't know till you try to clean it. So I see, a couple of little scratches right there. See this in our afternoon sun here. Another one here. I don't know why those scratches are there. It's an odd place for one. It may be someone at some point took this and who knows, maybe their clutch knob fell in it. I really can't tell you. But anyway, that is more than satisfactory enough in terms of making sure it's clean. And of course, you want to remember that get our perspective shifted back up here because we've got to get our hand wheel on. This is the time that you should be making sure that your hand wheel is lubricated, and there are a couple ways to do this. Let's see here. Before I do this, I'm actually going to come behind and lubricate behind the. There's like a rim here that is making sure I'm not dripping anything. That there's a rim here, and then there's a space between where the shaft goes all the way into the all the way across the machine. Normally, I look for oiling holes, but I don't see one up here. We have oiling holes up here, but not one over that space. Not sure why. But anyway, now I'm going to take, I'm just going to put some, again, sewing oil on either side, and it will dribble, it'll actually wrap itself around here. It will do that for you. And then if you're not sure you've got it covered, you can even put a little bit in here on this of course is sort of the bushing area, if you will, or the inner hub of your hand wheel. And yes, I've got a little extra oil there. All right, now we are not ready to put on our clutch knob. I have it there. I have it ready, but I'm going to, again, when you have a belt that you're going to continue to use, which is fine, this belt's in great shape, nothing comes off of my hand when I try to rub it. It's still orange colored, it's a little stained, but there's nothing loose, there's no powder on it. Just inspect it again. And let's see, I'm going to turn the machine in a different angle so that you can see what I'm doing. Because I think I've had to do this before. Get those cords to hang out of our way. Because remember, when you're putting your your belt on, you want to make sure that you're getting it onto into the groove of your hand wheel. And again, that groove, it's really important that it be clean because you don't want your belt to slip on it. Okay, I'm going to just pull this out. It's still on the drive shaft. I'm just going to slip the belt in right there. And you can see the belt is now lined up with the groove of the hand wheel. And I'm just going to go ahead and push in. Now, there is about, what is that? 3/16 or something space here, and there is supposed to be this space here. Now we are going to shift back and let's take a look at our motor. And as is true with all of these motors, you have a bracket that will move, and we're going to make I didn't tighten the bolt so much with my fingers that the bracket moves freely, and I'm going to pull the bracket all the way up. And this, I've never had a machine with this is a little helper handle there. Now what I'm going to do is going to come down and make sure that my belt will come down That's interesting. I believe that the washers are pushing. Well, no, just looking to see if the washer is stopping the machine from moving. And there may be some tension on the belt. You can see I'm kind of rolling the belt. Let's tilt it in that direction and see if that helps. You should be able to do it with your hand. It really should not require that you have to use a tool, because it's okay to put a little stretch on it, but we don't want to overly stress our belt, because it's still in good shape, has life left in it. This is very interesting. I may, you know what? I may need to do something I've never had to do before. I'm going to take the top bolt out and see if that helps. Right? Ah, yes. Well, famous last words, right? There we go. Well, haha, there it is. So I believe that what was happening is that the large washer may have been interfering, because it only lets the bolt come down so far. In any event, it worked. So if you end up having that situation, you might not, because this belt, there are usually, when you find a belt that fits your machine, the machines will have a certain size they want, but then you usually have a little bit of buffer, a little wiggle room, in terms of, you say, okay, well, how long or short should my belt be? And there is a range where it's either going to be too long or too short. And then there's a sort of a happy Goldilocks spot. All right, now we want to, I'm going to go ahead, in order to prevent our hand wheel from flopping back out, because it may wish to do that, we're going to go ahead and put our clutch knob and our washer. And don't forget, you will have a set screw for your clutch knob. Let's see here. Looking for one of my screwdrivers. So I don't see any, I really don't, I don't know that they've got any dirt or grime or grit in here, but just in case, we'll take it out and inspect it. Boy, that's a very long set screw for for a clutch, longer than most. Okay, got a cotton swab here and just see if there's any grime. This is an area, well, there was, look at that. Really, these are areas that probably, again, have never been cleaned. This is not something, again, this is not your normal maintenance. If your machine's running fine and your clutch knob is running fine, then you're fine. You don't need to take yours apart and do this. But this, again, if you're restoring your machine, then you certainly can. And I'm going to take that clutch knob set screw and do the same thing. Just put one drop of sewing oil. It's all we need, because as it goes through the threads, it'll spread it evenly. We're not trying to drown it in oil here. We just want some. Metal moving against metal really likes oil, sewing oil. All right, so what else are we going to do here? Do a little buffing of the knob. It's actually pretty nice, pretty decent chrome here. All right. I am going to, you can do this one of a couple ways. You can put a drop of oil on the threads of your, I think I'll do that. Or you can even put them on the hub end of your drive shaft there. Okay, so don't forget, before the knob goes on, you got to have your washer, and your washer has two teeth, right? Think of them as they're sort of like gear teeth, but this is not a gear. And they flare upwards, and the upwards is the side you want to place facing you. Okay. All right. And if it wants to slip off, you can sometimes put a little sewing oil behind it, and it'll sort of kind of help it stay. It's not glue, but it may help you. All right. So we're going to turn this knob and get it to spin on. Remember that to pay close attention, make sure your washer didn't slip off. If it does, then your clutch knob mechanism will not work properly. It's not broken, it's just not seated properly, right? So when I turn back, yeah, I gotta pull out on this set screw a little bit. All right, so it's snug now. When I turn it back, okay, it loosens and now it's snug. Okay. All right, so now we've got that, and our hand wheels should be secure. You don't want that because you don't want it to flop off and go crashing. Yes, they can. Now, I want to fine tune this. Now you'll notice, you can tell if I push on the belt, and you see the bracket, motor bracket moving. I haven't fully secured this bracket yet. Now let's get my larger industrial strength screwdriver bits. And I'm going to adjust this, but before I do, I want to kind of figure out where do I want my motor. And I've shown this in a number of videos. Again, there's no number system here. Our goal here is quite simply, what we want is to have the least amount of tension on the belt that gives you friction, so that it turns the machine. And then if it's too loose, or you start sewing something heavy and you'll hear a belt when it's slipping, it makes this whirling sound, then you can always go back and lowering the bracket will put more tension, and then raising it reduces the tension. So I'm gonna put this. Sometimes you just have to, you eyeball it and you get started on it, and you see where you land, and then you can make adjustments from there. They're not hard to make, and I didn't do too much hand tightening there, did I? Okay, so I haven't fully snugged them, but they're fairly snug, those bolts. Now let's push. What do we got here, right? All right, I'm happy with this at the moment. And again, if you're not sure that you have yours properly tightened, again, I'm going to turn on the bolt, and then when it's pretty snug, and it should not go anywhere because your motor doesn't weigh that much. You have your bolts just a little more snug than other areas of machines that I've talked about in other videos, where you really never want to over tighten, because you don't need to, and it can cause problems that you don't want. All right, so there you go. There is the motor reinstalled along with the belt for the Simpsons machine. Did I forget anything, anyone? Of course I did. Well, I didn't forget. I was just checking to see if you guys were checking behind me. Of course, we have the cover. Now, the reason I held off on the cover is that I'm fairly sure that I'm going to be happy with this. If you're not, you can have your machine when you get ready to plug it in. This is not plugged in. When you plug it in, you can test it, and it'll test fine. And then you can, once you're happy with where you are in terms of you've got the right belt tension, then you can put your cover on. Okay, the cover is there for aesthetics and to, I don't know, they started covering them at some point in the mid-late 60s. Okay, so remember, I kept all my bolts. I have 4 bolts, and I just kept them right in there. So 2 of the bolts look like that, and 2 look like that. They're very, very disproportionate. And so take a look at the inside of this for a moment. And yeah, I cleaned out. It had some dust bunnies down in the bottom. pretty normal, and I clean those out. Let's see, do I have any dust? Yeah, I've got a couple of dust bunny things over here. Okay, now this staining here I'm not worried about. This is just black staining. Well, actually, I guess it was looser than I thought. If you're not sure if something is dust or loose, you can just do what I did, and there it is. But there's some staining here I'm not worried about. That's not going to go anywhere or do anything. To me, it's not a problem. You can clean it if you want, but it is not. That is not necessary. It is necessary to have the exterior cleaned, but that can be done once it's reinstalled. Okay, so if you have a cover, a motor cover, and you're going to put it back on your machine, and you get the cover and you're thinking, oh, I don't remember, oh, I'm not sure I remember which bolts go where. And sometimes you end up with more than two sizes, but here we have just two. We have two long bolts and we have two short bolts. And here I'll put them down here so you guys can see them. They're sometimes, you know, you get to taking something apart and you get excited, you get into it and you forget to make notes or records. So two bolts long, two short. Now, if you're not sure you remember, there's a way to kind of hack this to see, because remember, the holes that these bolts are going to go into they're at the same depth. Well, not, excuse me. They are, I believe they're drilled, well, they're on the same plane, right? They start at the same depth, but your cover does not. Okay, so let's look here. If you look at the cover, it's a lot deeper right here than it is here, right? So notice the holes for the bolts on this one, they start much further in than on the deeper side of your cover. So that should tell you, that infers what? That for the deep side, we need the long bolts, okay? And that is correct. Now, you'll notice that my side cover, why is it not wanting to go on? Aha. Because remember, when we took this off, I believe I had removed the hand wheel. But if you've already put your hand wheel back because, you know, some guy on this vintage sewing machine garage told you to, then you don't have to remove it, okay? You just want to get some space between the hand wheel and the body of the machine. So what are we going to do? I'm going to loosen this. Actually, I'm going to do more than loosen. Sorry. I am going to take the knob off and the washer. Don't worry, it's not a big deal. Okay, so I'm going to pull out. I have not taken my belt out. No, we don't need to do that. Okay, I'm just going to slide it out. You'll see about 1/4 of an inch or so depth of the center hub there. Now, when I come back, there we go. I just got behind my hand wheel. Okay. All right. So, what am I going to do? I don't want my hand wheel to come off, so I'm just going to come back, reinstall my clutch knob, and again, when you go to put your clutch knob in, even when you're just, for whatever reason you take it off, in this case this is part of our restoration, remember that it's very easy to dislodge that washer when you put the knob on, and if you dislodge the washer, it doesn't work and you won't be able to wind a bobbin and you'll think your machine is going crazy. And don't worry, your machine is not crazy and neither are you, it's just the washer. And so it's, again, you didn't break it. These things are so strong and tough. They're very difficult to break. All right. So, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to do the same thing that I always like to do when I'm putting bolts back for the first time, probably since 1967 or so. All right, so we have the long bolts, right? And they are going to be going in here. Now, because we don't, you kind of have to kind of guess. You're thinking to yourself, okay, how do I know if I got this thing lined up? You don't want to cross-thread your bolts ever, right, on anything. And sometimes the long ones can be a little more difficult. So if you'll take your short bolts and get those in, because those are a little simpler, right? You can actually, I don't even know if I can turn them with hand, they're so short. Let's get a smaller screwdriver just to get these little bolts in. We're not really snugging them down yet. And you'll want to hold your cover. Whoops, come here, you. But a lot of times you can see, because these are so shallow, you can actually see the bolt, the threaded bolt hole that you're aiming for. And I just got it going in there, right? Because that's what this is going to do, and I'll do the same for the one above, is it's going to help line up your cover. You need to get at least 2 in. So I'm going to go with these short, little shorties. And let's go ahead and get those in there. And you got to get it threaded enough so it doesn't go rolling out onto where? Onto the floor, but if not the floor, hopefully on your terry cloth towel, because you prepared your work surface like I had suggested. Okay, so these 2 bolts are now, for the most part, aligning things. Let's see, did I put any oil on my long bolts? I don't remember. All right, I did it again. Okay, so now the long bolts, you're still going to have to finagle a bit, but you are in a better position to do that. Remember, these are fairly long. You're going to have to kind of do it by feel, okay? So I just started turning with my thumb and forefinger there, and you'll know when it starts to spin like it should, you will know that you have it right. Yeah, you see how easily this is turning for me, okay? Yeah, that's threaded. It's not all the way in yet, but it's a good ways. Now, we got one more. Now, on some machines, I have shown all of you that you always want to be careful, because even though, yes, you say, well, I've got oil on the bolt like you told me, and I've got it going into cast iron, which is where these bolts screw into. But on past machines, sometimes the cover has, the manufacturer started using plastic. So remember, steel and plastic, that's not a fair fight, and you want to make sure you do not go crazy with tightening your bolts, because you'll crack the plastic. So since this is metal, you might think, well, why do I have to be careful here? You do. And the reason is because this metal is not steel. For reasons that are not clear to me, they substituted, I think they were trying to lighten the machine a little bit, but that's like getting a bowling ball to be lightweight. Remember all the iron and steel that my magnet would stick to? This is not, I can tell by the sound it makes when I tap it. This is aluminum, and it's not plastic, but aluminum, just like plastic, if you ask aluminum to compete with steel, the steel will win and the aluminum will crack. Yes, it will. It can. So just be mindful of this. And as I've mentioned in other videos before, things like covers, like these side covers, once you have your bolts in and they're snug, your cover's really not going to go anywhere. I mean, if your cover is not secure, you'll hear it. You'll hear it rattle, and you can just snug the bolt. But don't go crazy. Again, you're not, you're not holding up a skyscraper here with it. This is basically, I'm impressed that they gave us 4. They actually gave us 4 bolts to hold this piece on. It doesn't weigh very much, but it's definitely going to be secure. And again, I'm having to sort of fumble my way because I can't see that the bolt pushes up against the hole in the cast iron, but it's, I've got to kind of try to aim it. If you start turning one of these bolts and they stop on you, then you want to quit, because that means you're cross-threading. So right now you can see the bolt is, it's got a long way to travel. The holes are lined up, but again, I have to kind of prop it up because it wants to go wiggling away and flopping around on me. Whoops, see, you can see that. And if this happens to you, just remember, hopefully this is comedy, because you're like, oh my gosh, how many mechanics does it take to get one bolt in here? But you know, if it happens to you, remember also to laugh. It's okay. You are not a bad mechanic, because this bolt has decided to pick this day and this time to cause issues or complications or being stubborn, right? So I'm having to try to point the bolt as best I can. And if the bolt is at an angle, obviously it should be straight, but it's not easy to hold it straight when you're trying to do this. And this is kind of one of those moments where you think, okay, and then you start looking at it and say, you know what? This bolt is not going to beat me. I am going to prevail, and you will prevail too. So if you get in one of these moments, you know, you've gotten everything else dealt with, you know, you've gotten the belt on, you've adjusted the bracket, you're pretty, you know, it should be downhill, right? It should be. But, well, the best made plans, as they say. So I'm just going to keep holding it and trying, and of course, no, it's probably not the right angle. It wants to go in straight. Or I should say, you want it to go in straight. So at some point, there we go, it's catching. At some point, it will start moving, and the stars will align, and you will. In fact, I'm not even using the handle on my screwdriver extension and bit. I'm just going to turn it till it snugs, and want to make sure the little short ones are nice and snug and happy. There we go. Where are you over here? Got this one here. And again, you turn the bolt until it doesn't want to turn anymore, and then you stop, because there we are. All right. So, if a 12-year trained sewing machine restorer can be challenged by a stubborn machine bolt, so can you, and you can prevail, because I just did. There you go. So don't let it frustrate you, everyone. So, The Simpsons, the once mighty Simpsons, and we hope it will be mighty again. I have no idea how this machine is going to run, again, this is the method I use. You should not plug a machine in until you've inspected it to make sure everything is in good shape. Make sure your cords are okay. The cords on this machine are in fantastic shape. And if it's frozen, don't try to run it, because you've got to wake it up before you ask it to start running. Not nice to be woken up and be told to run right away. It doesn't work for people or machines. At least not for me, it doesn't. So thank you all for watching, as I have worked to wake up a very, very frozen and sleepy and stubborn and very heavy 1960s Japanese-made tour de force. We've got cam capability for decorative stitches. We've got needle position. We have got zigzag, and we've got a button holder that somehow works, and I haven't yet to figure that out. So, thank you all for hanging in there. If you have not, please consider clicking on any of my Buy Me a Coffee links. You can donate to my channel, and feel free to subscribe. And with your support, I can get more machines rescued, purchase them, and then get them here, get them on my bench, put them on the channel, and hopefully find a new owner to adopt them and give them a new life. Because sewing machines were meant to work, and these machines are not worn. This machine has barely scratched the surface of wear, and that's why I call them heirloom quality. And hopefully your machine is heirloom quality. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.